Welcome to the Shoegazing podcast. My name is Jesper Ingevaldsson and I run shoegazing.com, which is one of the largest blogs in the world on quality footwear. For this episode, number 29, I visited the well-renowned shoe store Leffot in New York and talked to the founder and owner Steven Taffel. When the world entered the digital era, say 20 years ago or so, Leffot was one of the first influential multi-brand stores specializing in classic, mainly welted men's shoes. And it has had a big impact both on its customer base and on other stores around the world that have been inspired by it. With Steven's long background in the business, we went deep on the classic shoe industry in the US and how it has evolved and looks to evolve going forward. But we also, of course, talked a lot about his own journey. So enjoy your listen. All right, Steven Taffel of Leffot. Welcome to the Shoegazing podcast.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And thank you for having me here in your lovely store on Manhattan.
Well, it's great to have you.
Okay, we're going to talk about like the quality shoe world in the US a bit. But as always, I want to start sort of with a bit of background for those who aren't familiar. So basically, how did you end up working with shoes?
Well, I started in the shoe business really quite young. I mean, but just by chance. When I was in high school, I grew up in Michigan, in Detroit. Oh. And my father was in the shoe business. He managed a shoe store. It was a local, family shoe store. And I started part-time when I was in high school. I was a stock boy, became a cashier. Then I started selling shoes. It was a family shoe store. We had children's shoes, women's, men's, and I kind of just fell into it that way. And then through college, I did that too. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed meeting people and working with different customers, helping them find the shoes that they liked and needed and fit. So anyway, I started doing that. And, eventually I got out of shoes, just strictly shoes. I moved to Los Angeles in the 80s. And actually, my first job was at Nordstrom. They were just opening a store in LA. It was their first store. And I was in the women's shoes, selling women's in the salon shoe section department. Okay. And from there, I got recruited to work for an Italian luxury brand, Bottega Veneta. That was in Beverly Hills on Rodeo Drive. So there you had more accessories and still more shoes too. Then with Bottega Veneta, I ended up moving to New York and working in their store here in New York. From there, I got recruited to work for Prada when they opened their store on Madison Avenue on the Upper East Side. And then I became a manager of the men's department. That was like a new thing for Prada at the time. So I spent time in Milan at their men's store when that had just opened. And we had a wide range, right? So we had the whole men's collection, but primarily a lot of shoes, right? Yeah. Shoes, Prada shoes were the sneakers, everything was super popular. So I spent about 10 years with Prada, and the second half of my career was in the corporate side. And then when I was right around 50, they made a change. I was downsized out of the company. And so, I was like 50 years old and 2 kids and a wife. And I was like, well, what the hell am I going to do now? So I just was reading a book that was the main character was talking about his shoes and his tailoring. He was living in London. He was very kind of, I wouldn't say dandy, but he was very specific about what he wore. And he mentions specifically Edward Green shoes. Yeah. So I'm like, Edward Green shoes. So then I started thinking about it, and I started researching and thinking about shoes. And I thought, like New York didn't really at that time have a multi-brand shoe store, right? Yeah. The brands had stores, there were Church's stores, John Lobb, and so on. And then you had the department stores. And the department store selection, I didn't really care for, it was just a lot of luxury brand shoes. And anyway, so I spoke about it with my wife, and we thought about the idea of what if we opened a shoe store? So we did. We found our location here in the West Village on Christopher Street. It's a beautiful street. It's a very nice neighborhood. And it was a toy store, and the guy who owned the store was about to retire. So it became available, and we took it. And, it was a leap of faith, right? It was kind of there was an internet, but it wasn't like e-commerce wasn't a big thing, exactly. Right? So, you really had to rely on people coming into the store. And we're not in a high traffic area, but we just loved the space. We had the opportunity to get it. And I started contacting different brands, shoemakers, Edward Green, Corte. We had J.M. Weston, we had Aubersey, Artioli, Churches. I think that was the mix at the time. Yeah. And we just had shoes. Like the table that we have in the store that we display the shoes was nothing but shoes. We had no accessories. We had no shoe care. We just had shoes. And that's how we started. So I did have a web guy build me a website. No e-commerce, of course. And he suggested I start writing a blog. And that was when blogs were just kind of starting out. I'd read some blogs, but I'm not really a writer. I'm not a photographer.
Because this was in 2008.
Yeah, this was right. So we opened in May 2008, May 5th. We just had our 15th anniversary. So I used to take photos of the shoes, not great photos, but the best I could. And then I would write every day some kind of a blog piece, right? I would sometimes write it at the store. Sometimes I'd write it at home when I got home. But I tried to be consistent with it. And then a thing happened, really. The first really good thing that happened to us was about a week or two after we opened. This guy comes into the store. He's wearing a camera. And he's looking around, he's asking about the store. And I said, we're new, we just opened. He's like, wow, you really like the store. Can I take some photos? I have a blog. I'm like, okay, sure. And he tells me his name is Scott. And it was Scott Schumann. And he said, can I put you on the website, on the blog? I said, sure. So people started coming in and saying, like, I read about your store on the sartorial list. And that was really incredible to me because, I didn't understand the power of blogs,
No, because that was a new thing then. We didn't really...
It was pretty new,
know how it worked.
Right. Exactly. So people were coming in for that. And it was really amazing, And then people started writing about it in different places. And so that was the beginning.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And you still have quite a few of those brands that you mentioned that you started with, right?
Well, we've changed a lot. Yeah, I mean, things change over 15 years. Like some things work better than others, and we've adapted. We added Alden, which we didn't have at the very beginning, but we added that shortly after we opened, a few months after we opened, probably. And that's become probably one of the best moves that we made. We did a lot of, makeup styles for the store, a lot. Over the years, we've probably made, 100, 200 different, models just for the store.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Edward Green too. So I would say Edward Green and Alden are the two long-running brands that we've worked with, that we have a very close relationship. We work really well, and the customers really enjoy those shoes a lot. Yeah.
Cool. And, I mean, during the years since then, how important has the digital sphere been for you, would you say?
Right. So I resisted. I really was kind of resistant to doing like e-commerce in the beginning. I was really worried that it would be difficult for guys to buy shoes online. Right. Today, everybody buys everything online, so it's not an issue. But in those days, I didn't really shop a lot online, especially for things like that. But at some point, I don't remember our website went through a few different changes. At some point I thought, I was getting emails where customers were emailing asking, how do I want to buy a shoe. I see it. How can I buy the shoe? Right. I figured there was enough demand to try and find a way to have an e-commerce platform. And so we launched it. Well, what I first did is I started putting the sizes of the shoes on the blog. I would show a photo of a shoe and I'd say available in these X number of sizes. Then guys would contact us, and I think we took phone orders or something like that. But that became a little difficult because then we had to manage the inventory and everything. It was kind of complicated. So made the decision to try and go with a e-commerce platform. And it started to work. So, we've continued to build it out, try to make it more user-friendly, every step of the way.
And I know your photos in this quality shoe world, so to speak, a lot of people look at, Leffot, your product photos are like the gold standard. Oh. That's how people want them to look.
No, thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
Because they are like crisp and display the shoes as they are, so to speak. You can see some lovely photos, but then they are sort of overworked, or they look like different from what they do in real life.
I see.
Yeah.
No,
but do you take the photos yourself, or do you have a photographer out?
No, we do it in-house.
Yeah.
We do it in-house. We share the responsibility, but we have it set up for photo taking, and we do it here. We kind of follow a very simple routine.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Cool. So, and the social media and those parts, how important has that been for you?
Also,
both your own and others, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, social media, Instagram primarily, has been a big driver for us. We have, I guess, close to over 70,000 followers now. And, we just, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, we just post things that, new products that come in, shoes that are made to order for other customers, so other people can see them, things of interest. It's something to entertain people, to maybe take your mind off of your daily routine, perhaps, just something to
get inspiration.
Just enjoy and relax. Mm-hmm. But, in the early days when like blogs were starting, people used to come in and say, I saw you on this blog, or, some blog. Now they're like, I saw you on this Instagram, or, so it's a shift.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And at Leffot, you've sort of been early adopters of many things. One being introducing a secondhand section, which I think we're sitting right next to.
These are some of the secondhand that you see here that have yet to be photographed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So why did you want to do this?
Well, it wasn't really something that I necessarily wanted to do, but over the years, I had customers who asked about shoes that they had, that they don't wear, that they didn't know what to do with.
Oh, okay.
And if they brought them to me, could I sell them? And I just didn't think about it as a market for a long time. And then in 2017, I just started thinking about, this is why everybody, asking about this, there's got to be something to it, right? And in fact, the resale market was becoming more and more apparent and more popular. Websites were starting to become more popular with resale products. So I started with about, I don't know, maybe 20 pairs of shoes, mostly that were mine, that I wasn't wearing. And we started it, we just said, we're just going to put them out there and see what the reaction is. And some people thought it was kind of strange, others really think it's a great idea because it's, it's very, it's good, right? What's the word I'm looking for? Recycling.
Yeah, it's good for the sort of
ecology.
Environment.
And, couldn't think of it.
Sustainability.
Yeah, exactly. So, it started to become more commonplace, I guess you'd say, and more acceptable. Websites like The Real and, big websites that are doing that, right? So we started tinkering with it that way. And then we started to develop the website to have a page dedicated to that and a process how customers could send us shoes. And I think that, it's hard to even get rid of things that you own. Like you accumulate things in your life that nobody really wants your stuff, I mean, it's hard to even give things away. It's a hassle. So if you can make it easier for people to unburden themselves with certain things and maybe make a little money out of it, it's great. And then on the other hand, you get guys who maybe are looking for something that they can't necessarily afford, or, it's aspirational. They always wanted to try something and maybe it's more affordable. It's great. So it works. It helps on both ends,
Yeah. And it's this type of footwear which is made to last. I mean, there are something that you really can
That's
sell
true.
on, so to speak.
Excuse me. Yes, it is exactly.
They can, instead of just ending up on a shelf or
and
being thrown
the
away,
shoes
they
have to
can
be,
find a new owner. And
that's
be
it.
worn.
Yeah, and they have to be in good condition. I mean, obviously there are times where we have to reject, and we don't take every kind of shoe and every style of brand. So it's pretty specific, but I mean, it's not super limited. I mean, it's within the framework of the shoes that we sell. Yeah,
and
now,
usually people who when they want have shoes that they don't wear, it's usually because of a reason, and then they haven't worn them that much.
Yeah,
maybe
sometimes
fit was off or didn't.
It could be a career change.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes they just never were comfortable in a particular shoe, or they bought it and then they decided it wasn't really for them. So there's many reasons. And now we've sold since 2000. I mean, we've sold over 2,000 pairs. Probably.
All right.
Yeah.
Since when?
2017, I think we launched. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's. Do you think it will be growing even further, or stay the same? That part of the business
pretty consistent, but I think now we're known for that. So we have customers who reach out to us. That they heard that we buy shoes, or they bring them in. If they're in New York, they bring them to the store sometimes.
Yeah.
So I don't see it slowing down really. There's always going to be a need for people to clean out and bring us more shoes. It's pretty consistent.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let's widen the scope a bit then, and because you've been in the menswear business more or less, at least, and later specifically the quality men's shoe business for a long time now. So how would you say this has evolved here in the US during the decades that you've been in it?
Well, the one thing that I can say is that the awareness of men's shoes and the quality of men's shoes has increased dramatically, right? So in those days when we opened in 2008, there were just a few sort of websites or blogs or forums like Style Forum, Ask Andy About Clothes, that guys read to learn, get educated. And today there's much more talk on the internet or, on forums or whatever, social media about men's footwear, right? There's also many more shoe brands in the world today, and shoe stores, I guess, sort of like what we do, right, in other countries. So the level of accessibility, the level of variety, the level of education has all really increased dramatically since those days when I opened.
And have you sort of, has there been any changes that surprised you?
Well, I mean, there's trends in terms of the type of footwear, that are in style at the moment, at the time. I mean, I remember years ago it was double monks everybody was wearing. Yeah. Double monks, right? Now today it's loafers. Seems like everybody wants loafers. Yeah. This is all post-pandemic. It's a slow evolution. I mean, I guess if I think about surprises, I'm not really surprised by much, but I'm happy to see that it's, the men's footwear industry has grown so much, and that men are, they're paying attention and they're really caring about the shoes that they wear, Do
you sell less like formal dress shoes now than you did 5-7 years ago?
Yeah. The trend, at least here in the US, seems to be less formality, especially for business. So more of the formal shoes tend to be for events, particularly weddings, things like that.
Yeah,
exactly. No question. Men are looking for versatility today. They want shoes that they can dress up or down, it seems like, So it's less formal, but more derbies, I would say, loafers, like that.
So any of these sort of periods that's been better for your business than others?
Well, like any business, retail business, there's always peaks and valleys, right? Yeah. Of course, you deal with different economic and situations in the world, and that always affects your business.
Yeah.
But post-pandemic, actually, it was quite good, because I think there was just some pent up, feelings of wanting to buy things for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And, so that was very good. Things now are pretty level, like sort of pre-pandemic level right now. But, I think guys who want, we sell quality, classic footwear, we're not really reinventing the style of men's shoes. I like traditional classic style in general, like from, tailoring to footwear. So I kind of lean into that more classic style of footwear. And, I like classic because classic transcends style, right? You can have a pair of Alden Cordovan long wing Bluchers from 60 years ago, and they still make the same shoe, right? So it doesn't go in and out of style, right? So that's value, right? Because you have a shoe that you can use for a long period of time, right?
So two changes that I've noticed is sort of how there was one period where you in the US had lots of competition from online retailers in Europe selling without VAT tax, which many brands put an end to eventually. And more recently, many brands instead have sort of started to take more of the sales themselves in their own online stores and their own brick and mortar shops and so on. So what's your thought on these?
Right. So that's a great question. That was a fundamental change when, there's always good things about the internet. There's some drawbacks about it, let's say. The internet for us, let's say e-commerce, that really helped us to expand our reach to customers beyond our neighborhood or our city, right? So we primarily have domestic customers, but if you're a guy who wears Alden and your size in an Alden, boom, now you could just look online and order any Alden and know you're going to get a shoe that fits if you like it. You don't have to be in a physical location to buy it, But when we had the makers start distributing more to European sellers, or then started selling directly to customers, that was a shift. That was definitely, I have to say, we felt the difference. We realized the difference. We started to see customers who would come into the store to be sized.
Yeah,
and
go buy from
then buy directly from somebody in Europe. And we started to look at some of the European sites, and we started to look at what the price of the shoes were relative to what we were charging for them. And it was difficult, it was difficult. So we addressed it with some of the shoemakers that we worked with, and some took it seriously, most took it seriously, and they acted accordingly. So, we're not looking to have an advantage over anybody. I realize that it's a free market and everybody is in it to make a profit. But we like a fair playing field, right? That's what I'm asking. And that's what, I think the shoe manufacturers realize that they have to be fair with all their partners. We've been a long-time partner with many. And I think they want everybody to do well, and they want the brand to be represented the right way. So it all works out, right? I think for us, what's been beneficial is the fact that in this world, we're now like in our 16th year. So I'm not saying we're 100 years old, but, we've been in it for a while. We've got some skin in the game. So I think we have kind of established ourselves as a reputable retailer, and, that helps. And so customers tend to come to us because of that, and try to provide, good customer service. And that's the focus.
Yeah. So how do you see the brands selling both online and in physical stores themselves more and more?
Yeah, I think it's just the nature of the business. I think, if you're a shoemaker and you see the opportunity that you have customers who know your brand established and customers, and you can offer a wide variety. You can offer, so many different more brand styles, right? Yeah. Than a local retailer. I honestly, I don't think about it. It's just the way it's just the way it is, right? There's nothing we can do about it. I think it was a matter of time before that happened. Yeah. That's the way retailing is moving. It's moving more and more online. Yeah.
Yeah. And but it's something that affecting you that sort of brands take sales themselves more and more.
Well,
as
I mean, there's an
multi-brand
effect.
store.
I mean, I think there is an effect, but what is there's really there's no option. You just have to do what you do. Yeah. I mean, it cuts the pie into a smaller piece. Everybody gets a smaller slice of the pie, but I have to focus on my business and trying to reach my customers in the best way I can. Would it be beneficial if the manufacturers didn't do that? Of course, but it's not going to change. It's not going to change.
So, do the quality shoe world in the US differ in any way from, for example, Europe and Asia? Would you say, from your experience?
Well, I mean, I think customers, the way they dress or their attitude or style or probably is different. I think Americans tend to be less formal in general, right? So I think like work settings are more relaxed, especially today. Then I see it when I travel to Europe or Asia. I think people dress in a little bit more formal style. Yeah, I mean, again, I think it goes back to the fact that the shoes that I like and the shoes that we have in the store are pretty classic. So they kind of transcend the style, and they can dress them up or dress them down, try to make them go with different situations.
And looking into the crystal ball, then, where do you see the world of quality shoes going in the coming years?
Well, I think we've developed a pretty solid base, let's say, of quality footwear, today, as opposed to when I think back to when we first started. Men are more aware of it. They understand the quality, the value of quality shoes, and the comfort and the durability, and all those, things. But I have to say, I mean, the sneakers have taken over so much of the style of dress today again. And, this could change, but I don't see it really changing much. So many of some of the brands are making shoes that look like shoes, but are really kind of sneakers, built on sneakers form. Typically, though, I think that the classic shoe will always be a classic shoe, and there'll always be a market for that and a need for that. I don't have the crystal ball. All I can do is do what I like and hope that others feel the same, and that's what I focus on.
But you sell sneakers here in your store?
We work with Hiro Yanagimachi, who makes a beautiful, what we call the LS1 sneaker, which is the luxury sneaker #1 version. These are all handmade in Tokyo in his workshop. And so we call it a sneaker, but it's not a sneaker in the sense of an Adidas sneaker or a sports sneaker. This is a handmade casual shoe in the style of a sneaker that's designed to look like a sneaker, right? So this has been a very successful introduction. And, besides the fact that they're just super comfortable, they look great, I think the customers get the connection like everything else, the quality of the shoe, right? So these shoes are not inexpensive, but you're getting a shoe that can be recrafted and, it's not a throwaway shoe. So for us, I've had sneakers that we sold in the store, but I feel like there's just so many sneakers in the world, it's like, how do you find a sneaker that's unique, right? So I'm not anti-sneaker. I wear sneakers myself. It's just that I don't have a place for that in our business right now.
And do you think the sort of direct-to-consumer trend will continue? And if so, how will this affect you? You touched a bit upon it before. But
I think it will continue. I think there's more and more shoe brands out there in the world today that are selling direct-to-consumer. I think it's a good thing for, customers who are looking for that. It seems like it's working for some of the shoe brands that are doing it as well. Again, like the manufacturers that we work with, like Edward Green and Alden, particularly, they're going to continue to do that. But at the same time, it's not only that the manufacturers are going direct to the customers. With these are retail wholesale businesses, right? So they sell to other retailers. So, there's a lot of retailers that sell the same brands that we sell, plus the manufacturer sells. It's a little different than brands that are built around just being exclusively direct to customers, right?
Because they don't often have their own factories, so it's still sort of the same. I assume in most cases work directly with the factories.
Yes,
it's still the same amount of middlemen as they often like to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. So I prefer to work directly with factories if I can. To me, it's just, it's the shortest distance between 2 points, right?
Yeah.
So, you work with the factory, you get the input right away, you know what's going on. When I work with somebody who has a factory make their shoes, I have to contact that brand that I work with, and they got to contact the factory. Just, it's just less control, sort of that feeling for me. I like to know, directly what's going on. It's not always the right thing. It's not always the best situation, because there's delays, there's different things, but at least I know, so we deal with it. But I think, I don't know, the direct to the consumer, it seems to be growing a lot. I mean, there's more brands than there's ever been, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't see that slowing down. I think more guys are sort of latching onto that and thinking like this could be a great thing. But, and it is a good thing. I mean, the more you can have shoes out there that are, well-made shoes that are priced at different price levels for different people, no problem. Like if a guy starts out and he's buying an entry-level shoe and he loves it, eventually he's going to move up to another shoe and then another shoe, especially young guys as they advance in their careers and they start having some extra income and they start thinking a little bit more long-term.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And with your experience, what do those working in this business need to do to continue to stay relevant, would you say?
I think keep the quality at a high level, the materials, the quality. Pricing is another issue, but there's a lot of factors that are imposed on that. I mean, cost of materials and labor and all those things, and transportation, of course. But I think if you continue to keep your quality consistent, I mean, that's a big factor among customers. They want to make sure that if I'm going to commit to buying a shoe that costs a certain amount of money, they're getting a shoe that's well made. And, I feel like they should do what they do, focus on their core business, and just try to keep it consistent. And, occasionally introduce some new products, but it's really, at the end of the day, the way I see it, it's the core business that really is consistent. It's the styles that are consistently made over the years that always have a place in a wardrobe.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Steven Taffel of Leffot, thank you very much for being part of the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Jesper. It was really, really fun. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thanks a lot for listening to this episode of the Shoegazing podcast. Visit shoegazing.com for much more on quality shoes. The podcast will be back with a new episode in a short while, so hear you again soon.